podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We'd had a fight, and I'd come particularly worse off, and he just kind of said, "Right, okay, come on."
Hello, I'm your host, Les Bubka. Welcome to Anxious Black Belt, a podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. If you enjoy our content and would like to support us, best way to do that is to listen to another episode, share it with your friends, and leave us a review. All this stuff helps the mysterious algorithm to introduce our podcast to new audience. Thank you for joining me, and let's listen to the episode. Sensei Steve Lowe, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. We had a few hiccups, but it happened. Eventually, we're here.
Yeah, we're
How
here,
are
mate.
you today?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
I been in your lovely dojo. Your appearance online suggests that everybody is somewhat jealous of what you have created in Koryu Kyudokan.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your background? Because I think you are one of the people who I admire, who actually is not that bothered with online. You're posting your kind of thoughts and stuff, but you're not over the internet imposing yourself on other people, like for my example, I'm doing. But you kind of in the background doing a really good stuff, and whoever I talk to have a really high opinion of you and your skills. And I can attest that being in your dojo, seeing you hitting the Makiwara, you training with Paul Enfield and Michelle Enfield. Um, yeah, can you tell us about background so we know more about you?
Right. So I started in the late 70s. Started primarily just because I was brought up in a rough council estate, and the need to be able to protect yourself was paramount. Simple. It's just one of those things you had to be able to do. And I had a friend of mine, a Chinese friend, and every time it used to kick off and things like that, which was regular, probably daily, he seemed to be okay. He even though we was only like 8, nearly 9 years old, he was fine. And anyway, it turns out that his dad taught him Kung Fu. Now, I didn't know what Kung Fu was. It was just, to me then everything was either Kung Fu or karate. But I didn't know any, there was no styles as such. And I just begged his dad to teach me. It's kind of like a Mr. Miyagi thing, it was. And it was one particular time I just ended up, I used to go back to his house. He didn't live too far from where I lived. And we'd had a fight, and I'd come particularly worse off. And he just kind of said, "Right, okay, come on, and I'll show you some things." And then that turned out almost to be almost daily for about 6 years, something like that, 6, 7 years. Then they emigrated. Turns out that he was next in line to teach the system that they were doing, which was Southern Praying Mantis. And they actually emigrated to California. He had an uncle that had passed on, and they moved to California for him to take over. So then I did what everybody else did. This was in the 80s then. And I just went, you see a poster in a shop window. And I went, and that turned out to be a Shotokan dojo. So I did a few years there, but then kind of realised that it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't protecting me, if you will. In fact, what it had done is it had undone what I could do. And I went with a friend to do some door work when I was about 19. Not seeking it out or anything. It was just, I actually went to just visit the lads on the door. They were all martial artists. Go and have a chat with them and things like that. I went up with a friend of mine, and then got asked to want to do some covering of holiday cover and things like that, and got my ass handed to me. So then I had to rethink everything. So then just kind of started trying to seek out and source out somebody to teach what I wanted from the martial arts. And at that time, there wasn't anybody really. So I travelled. I was all over Europe, Japan, Okinawa, everywhere, and kind of getting snippets of what I wanted, but not the whole thing. So in my early 20s, I decided that, well, if I can't find it, I'll teach. I'll get a few lads together, and I'll teach, or rather than teach, we'll train together, and we'll work on what I need, what I thought we needed. And that's why I started teaching. And I was probably mid to late 20s when I started teaching. And that was kind of the start of my teaching. Since then, I've done, then I started sourcing out extra door work, security work, minding work, naughty work, things like this. Anything that kind of got me a little bit more experience with violence. And then train with various people around the world, and kind of a culmination of everything kind of is where we're up to now. I'm like 45 years plus now into training. And the Koryu Kyudokan, even though the actual name is only, we actually, in 2 weeks' time, we'll have had the keys for the dojo 9 years.
Oh, cool.
And
it's already 9 years.
Yeah. I know it's gone quick, hasn't it? And so it was kind of, that was the Koryu Kyudokan was formulated. I used to have a dojo before that. I mean, I've like I said, I've had a dojo since late 90s, and it's just kind of, I've been through every single kind of level of teaching, if you will, from having a scout up, church hall, schools, what everybody else does. And then probably from early, I think it was just into the millennium that I got my first full-time dojo, which was an old school. And we started to do that up. And then from there, then probably as you know yourself, now getting your own place and that, you can't look back from that. It becomes, it's different, So we went, I had a big, it was an old school. I had the whole school. That ended up being derelict. The roof was caving in and all this. So we had to leave that one. And we've had various forms of like old offices and things like that. And then we were sharing a dojo actually with someone else. That didn't work out for various reasons I won't go into, but and then we kind of, after that, when we left that, because we basically found out through money and things. I'm not money orientated one bit, and we found out that we was basically what we was putting in, we weren't getting back. We was being ripped off basically. So we kind of said, right, I was in a unique position where I had a gang of students all shared my passion. So it was kind of, let's go and find somewhere a bit more permanent. I've always had somewhere like this, but then, you've been to my dojo. So the Koryu Kyudokan was born just after Sensei Colwell passed away, and it was kind of, he envisioned what he wanted for us to have a dojo like, and it was mad, because the way he described it in a dream, probably a year before he passed, is exactly what we've got. He sort of had a premonition of what it would be like. And now, right up to speed, we're kind of, in essence, a private dojo. We don't advertise, as you said. I don't push anything. I'm not interested. To be truthful, I know it sounds awful, this, but I'm not interested in new people coming in. Over the years, I've found now I'm in a fantastic position to be able to choose students. So anybody that first of all, to find us, you've really got to source us out. You've got to do your research to actually find where we are. So that's the first test, if you will. And then once, if you do find us and you come along, and, we're not for everybody because of the way that we train and the way that we study, it's, so we kind of got a small circle of students, and I select and do the odd seminar, do people who I think, generally want to share in what we do. And other than that, we just crack on. We just do our own thing.
Well, you are in a good position of having that trade skills because you're kind of in a building
Mm.
industry, so you can do a lot of things yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you could have actually done the Koryu Kyudokan as you wanted because you've got
Yeah.
the skills to do so instead of I'm
Yeah.
finding that whenever I want to do something and it's not just like building side, but in writing books and stuff, if people don't have a martial artist experience,
Mm.
they really don't know what you're talking about. So I can imagine
Mm.
that if you went to the builder and said, "Oh, I want a camisa like this," they're gonna like, "Yeah,
Mm.
okay, I just do this," and then if
Mm.
not, but you can put those two skills together and actually create what you want.
Mm. I mean, so the Koryu Kyudokan basically is a picture, if you will, brought to life of the best parts of the best dojo I've been in the world.
Hmm.
So it's kind of, even though I didn't particularly take photographs of them as I've been there or in the world, it kind of burns into your memory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what it was built on. But I mean, taking nothing away from. I mean, yes, I'm a joiner and a builder, but you see the pictures will be coming up again on the 17th, which is my birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So the pictures will be coming up again of when we got the keys and how
Hmm.
it was when we got it, and everybody helped. Even though there's only kind of me who's the builder, everybody else helped and did. Took direction and we built, and that's the beauty of it as well. That makes it even more special is that we built it together.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
everybody who's in the place, and as we spoke about it before, but people say, I wish I could afford something like this, and the simple fact is we've got that because every single penny that comes in pays for it. So I
Mm.
don't take, I teach, in essence, I teach for free. I don't take any monies out of the dojo whatsoever. In fact, every seminar I do goes into the dojo to pay for the dojo. That's the reward itself. The dojo itself is the reward.
Hmm.
So can people have that? Yeah. It's not a cheap place to run and to have. Yes, I had the skills to actually physically do the work,
Hmm.
but financially wise, if you've got a student base, but it depends on what you want.
Mm.
I've never ever made money from martial arts ever. It doesn't interest me to do that because I never wanted to be in a position where I was fearful of losing a student
Hmm.
to pay the rent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of, by not taking anything from it and making sure then my guys get, what I think they need rather than what they want, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not tied. I haven't got a financial tie or a financial fear. Everybody pays monthly into the dojo, including myself. Like I say, and every penny goes into it, and the result is we have. I think we have quite a unique thing going on at the Koryu Kyudokan.
I do think so as well.
Mm,
I think it's very, very unique. I was speaking with a couple of my friends that I'm gonna be having you on interview, and the common request was to ask you about your teacher, Mr. Coleman.
yeah.
Um, can you share some stories and stuff?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
personally, not being from the UK, I don't know nothing about Mr. Coleman, but I heard that he was a bit of a legend
Mm,
in karate.
yeah. So Ronnie Cowell was kind of one of those guys. He was one of the founding fathers in this country. There's no doubt about that. But kind of an enigma of a man.
Mm.
Was very highly graded in jiu-jitsu, very highly graded in karate, but was like myself really. Was kind of not seeking the limelight, not didn't have he just had he ended up with a small dojo with a small select students, but was his history being ex-military, ex-bodyguard, been in the SAS Pathfinders, there's some stuff I can tell and some stuff I can't, of course, and he was kind of, his legend was, what can I say? His legend was bigger than his name, if that makes sense. Everybody's heard of him, and not many people had actually met him. And he, through social media, he decided he'd be, unbeknownst to most people at the time, he'd been given countdown, basically. He had a few health problems, and they'd told him, you've not got overly long. So he decided to share what he knew, but on a deeper level. Previously, he just kind of, in his own words, he got, a gang of young men of all mixed races, actually, and turned them into some serious martial artists that could handle violence very, very well. But he wanted to share more. He wanted to share deeper knowledge, his deeper knowledge. He'd spent a lot of time in Japan, spent a lot of time all over the world, to be honest. And he'd started, he wanted to do this seminar called The Old Ways. And he did that through social media. And I sent a request to him. The first one was like, if you want to go along, ask, request. And I sent him a message, and I said, would you mind if myself and some of my guys come along and train with you? And then I didn't get an answer for a while. And then about, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, something like that, he messaged me, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. I said to him, do you mind if I come along to the Always seminar? So it was about 2 weeks later, and I got a reply saying, yes, please come and bring some of your students. And I never thought nothing of it. But then only after I thought, hang on a minute, I haven't told him that I've got students. I just said, can I come? So anyway, I never thought nothing of it. And so we go to this first Always seminar, and he was like, he knew a lot about me, if that makes sense. A few years later, it turns out that he'd basically done his homework, and he'd through his various connections and what can I say, various people, he had me clued out. Basically, what he was looking for was an uchideshi, basically. I mean, he's had various people over the years that he taught, and everybody that he taught was his son. You became once you became in his inner circle, you became one of his sons, and you get more off him. But he was the kind of guy that, for example, if you speak to Alfie Lewis, so Alfie Lewis Sensei he'll tell you one version of Sensei Ronnie Corwell. I can tell you another version of Sensei Ronnie. Anybody you speak to, he was different person to different people. He was, he gave you the version of him that he felt you needed.
Oh, okay.
Like the first serious conversation, we did the Always seminar, and then I met a few people there, and one of them was Sensei Ray Bates, who I became uchideshi to him for jiu-jitsu. And a few days after the seminar, a few weeks after the seminar, I've been training with Sensei Ray Bates, who was also a student of Ronnie Corwell on the jiu-jitsu side. And I got a phone call saying that Sensei Corwell's rang me and said, can I have your number? And I'm thinking, shit, what do you want me for? Anyway, I rang him. I said, yeah, and he rang me. And he said, would you come to my house and have a look at a few jobs? So I'm thinking, oh, okay. He just wants me to look at some work. But I went to his house and I never did the job. He kept saying, yeah, I want this doing and that doing, but it never got done. And it was just a ruse, really. He just wanted to check me out. And we went, and then after a couple of weeks of chatting and things like that, he took me out. We used to take the dog out. And he said to me, so what are you doing? Why do you want to, what's your martial arts for? So I told him, and he said, right, so do you think your training fits that purpose? And I said, I think so. I'll try, I believe I'm trying down the river. I'm finding it hard at times because I can't find the right people to train with. But he said, right, okay. Well, I want you to, you become my student now. And that was it. If I had said to him, I want to, it's a bit of fun. I want to get out of the house and things like that. Then he wouldn't have been, that probably would have been the end of the conversation, to be truthful.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been the person for me. And then, I got him probably for the last 6 years of his life. And, I was kind of, I don't know, maybe not daily with him, but at least 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. And it was different, really, because he couldn't, when we very first started, he couldn't train much because he had a bad heart and all kinds. Like I said, he'd been given the countdown. And we kind of started off critiquing everything I was doing. And then we kind of started going a bit deeper with the subjects. And what he'd do is he'd test me in other ways, rather than physically test me. He would test me, from a study point of view. He would test me from kind of, he would ring me up in the middle of nowhere and just say, right, where are you? And I'm wherever I was. And he said, I need you to come to my house now, this second. I mean, I had my own business, so I could. And when I get to his house, I'd say, what's up? Are you okay? And he'd say, yeah, just, I want to go through this with you. So he'd test me that way. Test my, what's the word? Just whether I'd just drop everything and go. Rather than test me turning up to a dojo 3 or 4 times a week. I had to go, and there's all kinds, going out with him and him purposely starting kickoffs in restaurants and walking out and leaving me to it. And, from Evander Holyfield coming to his home and, unbelievable. The amount of...
I remember you saying that story on a dinner with Evander Holyfield.
Yeah.
And punching.
Yeah, that was... so I'm in the room with him, and I'm in awe. They're chatting about all things because Sensei Lowe was quite good friends with Mike Tyson as well.
Oh, wow.
So kind of chatting about that and this and and he says, so what's this karate punch that I hear about, this shockwave punch? And so Sensei's going, oh yeah, it's something that you can master over years. It's a very weird thing to feel. It's going on, and he points at me and says he can do it. So I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he said, show him, son. And then I had to show him, and it was something he shocked him. It was something he never felt before, and he was, just saying, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like thinking, it hurt him, and I only hit him about 20% of that, and but he kept looking, he kept saying, "What's that, man?" I feel it inside, and I could still feel it inside. And Sensei's going, yeah, that's what a shock punch is. It goes in you rather than, surface punching. And he's going, he keeps sat there and we're chatting. He keeps looking at me, that side-eyeing me. Well, I was obviously like, I can still feel this. What's going on here? And I'm thinking, he's just going to get up and do me in a minute, But he did. I mean, he kept saying, oh, it's amazing. So I'm pushing it, saying, well, look, you ever want me to come over to America? I'll show you if you want. Get me over and I'll teach you. And it never happened, you know what I mean? But, yeah, but just there's loads, and then so like I said, at the time of so Sensei made me. He had the World Kobukan Federation. He was the founder and chief instructor of that. Towards the end of his life, he made me the chief instructor of the World Kobukan, and then he had another organisation called the Kazuna, which was kind of a brotherhood, which he wanted to kind of get like-minded people together. And he presented the Kazuna medals to various people all over the world. But upon his passing, that kind of, what can I say? The Kazuna is still going, as is the World Kobukan, but run by different people. And it was made apparent that I wasn't welcome to continue in that role. So I wasn't gonna. I'm not the kind of person politically to start fighting for things and things like that. I said no. So I kind of formulated the Koryu Kyudokan in his name, in his image, what he wanted from a dojo, and not so much an organisation, but nothing like that. And because he was always one saying that. I've said this before many times. The Koryu Kyudokan is not a style or anything like that. You know, if I think something's good, regardless of whether it's karate, kung fu, anything, doesn't matter, jiu-jitsu. You know, like I said, you know, my jiu-jitsu, Sensei Kobo's jiu-jitsu, Sensei Rebe's jiu-jitsu is all in it, what we do. And if I think it's good and it's worth studying, it becomes part of what we do. And in essence, the Koryu Kyudokan, I've said this before, the Koryu Kyudokan is an ideology, a methodology of how to train, not where or what, or just how to do it, how to amalgamate everything into what we do. And for us, my martial arts is always and always will be about self-protection, even though there's other facets to it. You know, through the way that we train and we study, you get many other things from it. The primary thing is, can it work for us? You know, against real non-consensual violence, not karate violence, but non-consensual, you know, habitual acts of violence, basically. And if it works, it stays in, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's as simple as that. You know, and it's a methodology of how to train rather than any particular style or anything like that.
Me coming from kind of Kyokushin offshot, so very Japanese karate. I never learned about the things that I heard from you, and I'm more often hearing from that kind of Okinawan side of the old ways, like Atifa, Muchimi, and stuff like that. How did you get into those methodologies, like the shockwave punching? That's Atifa, right? If I'm remember correctly, because I don't see that in the Japanese side of like Shotokan,
No.
Kyokushin. It's not not non-existing. So for me, it's kind of interesting to learn. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah. So it was. I think it was about nine. I think it was about 87, something like that, maybe, when I saw it. And there was a program on the BBC called The Way of the Warrior.
Oh yeah.
And they went all around the world doing various martial arts. And when they was in Okinawa, a lot of it was spent with Higuana Sensei. And part of that, I mean, can you imagine, you know, like in 87, I think it was 87, you know, I was 16 or 17 and absolutely transfixed with this, with karate, because I was already doing karate, you know, I was doing martial arts since I was 8-9 years old. But, and then Higuana Sensei, when he was interviewed, I can't remember who he was with, some of his seniors instructors. And they were talking about that there's this Okinawan dialect language called Uchinoguchi, that there is certain karate methodologies and lessons within the language that if the language dies, it will be lost. This knowledge will be lost. And at like 16, 17 years old, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, there's a special secret karate language that, you know, that will reveal secrets of karate. And I'm thinking, I've got to find what this is. So of course, in the 80s, that was virtually impossible, right? Yeah. You know, to get, you know, no internet, trying to find a book, you know, and things like that. But it helped me source out the first kind of people like Hanshi MacArthur that, you know, have been there and done that many, many years before I did. And kind of, so the first thing was kind of finding what this language was. And then through studying this language and various things, you find out what these methodologies of Okinawan karate are, you know, and things like, you know, Atifa, Muchimi, they're all describing how to, how can I say? So basically, because the Okinawan people, and Japanese and Chinese also, are generally small people. It was a kind of way of passing on knowledge and study to be it. See, if you're small and not as strong as anybody, as most, like Westerners, for example, then there's got to be something else. You can't be stronger than them. You can't be strong, excuse me. You can't be faster than them. You can't out strengthen them. So I think generally through the amalgamation of the Chinese systems as well, they kind of developed a power generating system that set them apart. That didn't rely on strength, didn't rely on size, it didn't rely on sex really. You just completely anybody could do it, because if you've got 4 limbs and you're bodily able to move, you could do it. Now, don't get me wrong, some of it takes a lot of study, and it took me many, many years of studying these principles to get a grasp on it, and it was, I think that's another thing, to be honest, that, see, I became, because I've always been a small guy, even though I'm broad set, I've always been, that was why I was bullied, I've always been small, I'm only 5'6" now, but at the end of the day, without being crude, okay, if you've got to protect yourself, and when you hit someone, it doesn't work, it makes matters 10 times worse. Their ego inflates, your ego's gone, your ass hits the floor. So it was kind of, and to this day, I'm always the same. People say to me today, I'm quite well known for power and things like this. And people say to me, how much power do you actually want? And it's gone beyond that now. Now it's kind of, what am I actually capable of doing? It's not the fact that I want to be able to, magically tap someone on the shoulder and they pass out, this kind of thing. It's, I know that I can generate enough power and enough to deal with virtually anyone, in truth. But now it's kind of like, since I've been studying the fascia as well, how that can generate and be involved in everything. And when you look at, there's another Okinawan principle called Shaishi, which basically means to use the body, the mind, and the breath, or the body, the mind, and the spirit, or the essence. And what it basically means is internal, external, breath, thought, everything. And I kind of started to look into that. And as I'm looking into that, and also studying my fascia stuff, I'm thinking, Shai-Chi is basically describing the fascia. How you can incorporate the fascial system into once you can, without going too deep into it, once you're glutes dominant, you become, there's a different edge to it. And that basically started to describe Shai-Chi. So then, for the last 10 years or so, well, probably more now, actually, studying the fascial stuff. So in essence, I've really gone down this Shai-Chi way. I'm beginning to think, not now, it's beyond being able to hit someone really hard. Now it's kind of, what am I actually capable of? What can I actually do with this? And it's not, and ultimately it's about, if I hit somebody, it's going to work. But it's kind of, you've seen, the pad, you've seen the pads we use in the dojo, the kind of dense foam pads. We're kind of gone beyond being able, I mean, we're used to being hit, don't forget. We can take a hit through the pads because we've kind of done it for years and years and years. So your body builds a defense against that. But these last, I don't know, maybe about the last 12 months or so, even the seasoned lads in the dojo that can take a good shot, we're having to double the pads up now because it's too much. It's so much shot going into the body. We're having to double the pads up. So I'm thinking, well, bloody hell, what are we actually capable of doing through this? Certainly in the fascial route, the power now, not power, but shock.
Mm.
In the generalized Western thought of what power is, like whack somebody, they go 6 feet back, and it's not about that. You know,
Mm.
that takes a certain muscularity. I mean, I've got our senpai Alan, who's 69 in January. You know, I want to move like him at 69. I want to hit like him at 69.
Mm.
And I've no doubt, in his 70s, he'll still be in our dojo. He'll still be whacking the pads. He'll still be getting bounced off the floor and getting back up. And that's what you want. And when you see the old Okinawan guys, it's kind of like, bloody hell, these little old frail guys, and they hit you, and he puts a hole in you, and
Mm.
you're peeing blood for about 3 days. You think, oh, what the hell? It's kind of like like Sensei Kowo sent me to an island off Okinawa called Amami and to train with a good friend of his, Hayashi Sensei, sorry. And when we went there, and he's Wechiru and Kobudo, but again, it's his martial arts are about purely self-protection. For example, when we was in Amami, we at the time when we was there, we was the only Westerners on the island, and there was kids walking past us like I'd never seen a white person, and they're looking at us like, "Oh, what's that?" It was a weird thing to kind of experience.
I've got kind of the same experience. My father-in-law moved to Thailand. To my wife is half Thai, but
Mm,
he went to kind of Croydon of Bangkok, he calls it,
mm.
and he's got the same. Look, white monkey's going. Look, he's got hair on his hands. What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it was, and training with Hayashi Sensei was, like when we was walking around, so Hiroki, who was his Uchideshi,
Mhm.
and spoke very good English, by the way. He spent a lot of time in Italy and when I've been in Europe. he, as we're walking around Miami City and things like this, and he's walking around with salt in his pocket. And I said to him, first time we went was in 2012. And he said, "Why are you walking around with salt in your pocket?" He said, "Oh, it's in case we get attacked." So, what do you mean? So, I'll throw the salt in their eyes and then we can get stuck in. And this is like, this is the mentality that they have to this day, because it's all about protecting yourself. So, I
Mhm.
can't say too much about Hashi Sensei, right? But so Hashi Sensei and Sensei Koryu in Japan were friends together for a reason,
Mhm.
right? And so Hayashi Sensei went to Amami, as a lot of certain Japanese people do. But once they finish do what they do for a living,
Mhm.
they kind of go out to the island, so they're not known. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Retire in
So
peace.
so he was kind of a character himself,
Mhm.
and he was the first person to show me reverberation,
Mhm.
and he did a kick. Well, not a kick as such. He had hold of my arm, and he did the Wetchy's toe kick, and he
Mhm.
put his toe in my rib, right, and just held it there. But then explained about reverberation, and his body vibrated, and that's another level of energy being put into you as well. And I'm kind
Mhm.
of like, me being me, I'm like, what the hell is that? And then through certain kata, uh, Aragaki Seizan, for example, it's so in Aragaki Seizan, you've got perfect examples and lessons of reverberation, vibration, and
Mhm.
it doesn't teach you, but it kind of it relates to the principle of reverberation and vibration, which I
Mhm.
witnessed through Hayashi Sensei. So again, and then again, go down that route, and again, it comes back to fascial. I mean, don't forget, fascia is a new word. You know,
Mhm.
in the West, it's kind of a new. Uh, what can I say? It's kind of
New
a new.
concept.
It's what?
New concept.
Yeah,
In
it
a
is.
way, it's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I follow Mr. Gray when he was just starting with it, and how much people was laughing about him when he was showing the fascia going front, back, to the
Mm,
toes, to the tongue and everything, and how much grief and disbelief he had with this concept. And now pretty much everybody is jumping on it because
mm,
it's so effective. If in any sport, the transfer of energy is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's unreal. And certainly uh, it plays a massive role in making the body ballistic.
Mm.
It's for example, at the dojo this week, we've been doing Naihanchi kata, and all we've been doing from Naihanchi is just flow rate, about not stopping, about removing the body's stopping principles.
Mhm.
And once you start to remove those stopping principles, and it's all becomes fascial. So, for example, it's hard to describe just talking, but
Mm.
if I put a pad in front of you and I said to you, right, strike the pad,
Mhm.
and you'll hit the pad with X amount of force, but if you're just singularly striking, about 3/4 of the way there, your body will start to stop because your
Mhm.
body's getting ready to impact. So when you remove that stopping principle by adding flow rate to it, so in essence, you're striking without stopping. Now, I
Mhm.
don't mean by that you snap the punch off or the kick or whatever. The punch or the kick is still delivered with Muchimi with that sticking principle, that time on target, but the body doesn't stop. So if the
Mhm.
body doesn't stop, then you don't add the brakes, if you will, mid
Mhm.
flow, and you get an exponential delivery of shock. So all we've been doing all week is that from Nyanche.
Mhm.
That's another thing that we do a lot of, which I get a lot of, not criticism by no means, but I get a lot of questions when I share stuff of what we do. And they'll say, well, where's that in this kata? Or how'd you get that? And things like that. And it's kind of, so when kata was exported from Okinawa to Japan, it was for a different reason than they originally was learning the katas.
Mhm.
And the first things that were removed to become a Japanese Budo was, first of all, the dangerous techniques, the eye gouging, the ripping, the tearing, the breaking, even the throws, actually.
Mhm.
And the power generation principles, because it simply wasn't required. So the first thing to put back into kata to make you realize where you should be going with them, is the power generation principles. Once them are back in, and you want, well, not so much back in, but once you realize what's what, then you realize, okay, so if this is to create Tokayo, for example, using the body mass,
Mhm.
then why am I using the body mass? How am I applying this? Then the kata gets a completely different feeling to it and lesson to it, because you're looking at it from a different perspective. You can look at kata on many, many different levels. From performance to an exercise, to like the way that we do it, like trying to extract the principles and the applications out of it. But
Mhm.
in a real world, not against other craft technique.
Mhm. You said that kata can be used for different reasons, and
Mm-hmm.
that brings me to a question I ask everybody. What was the impact of karate in your case for your mental health? Do you think it's supporting it? It's
Yeah,
irrelevant, or can you kind of talk
yeah.
about it?
So, like I've said previously, right? So martial arts has without doubt saved me, right? So a lot of friends who I grew up with, we lived on a rough council estate, and then kind of from being my early memories of violence, to be honest. And you speak to people of my age, and they say, "Well, yeah, that was the '70s, that was the '80s, and that's what happened." And it was, but it still doesn't make it right, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people I went to school with, uh, because of these experiences that we've had, have gone in different paths. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them went down crime and things like this. A few of them. It's sad to say that a lot of guys I grew up with, and I mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe as much as a third of us, they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
They've either through substance abuse or violence, or there's a lot of them. The way it was going, so martial arts training initially saved me that way. It gave me a
Mhm.
purpose, and it directed me away from that. Even though I was still dealing with that, I did door work and security work and all kinds. That eventually became for experience rather than just seeking violence, if you will.
Mhm.
And then my first marriage, my first wife turned out to be quite seriously mentally ill. She
Mhm.
suffered from body dysmorphia syndrome, and at the time, nobody knew what that was. In fact, she
Mhm.
was the first person in Wigan to be. She actually had a counsellor trained to be able to deal with her for it.
Mhm.
And as being a partner of someone who suffers that on a daily basis, martial arts saved me again because it gave me an outlet to be able to cope
Mhm.
with it, if you will. My escape has always been the dojo. If I have a particular, if I have a stressful day at work, because I run a lot of jobs as well as
Mhm.
work. For me, coming in, quick shower, quick bite to eat, get the dojo, hit the maki for an hour, and then teach
Mhm.
and train with the lads. 2-3 hours down the line, you come out. It's the world's a different place. The
Mhm.
problems are not the same then. But if you was to go in, be fretting, worrying about it, sit on the couch, the problems are still there the next day. But
Mhm.
they've escalated. But you spend a few hours in the dojo, as I've done all my life, and it helps. It
Mhm.
really, really helps. And it's not just that as well. It's kind of like, and this is why I got involved with it through yourself and through John Johnson Sensei.
Mhm.
Uh, Through being able to deal with it uh, and cope and kind of with any kind of stresses in life, people gravitate towards you because you seem
Mhm.
to have your head screwed on. So, be it in the dojo or not, you kind of people gravitate towards you who are suffering. So they
Mhm.
come to you because you seem to cope with everything. They come to you and they say, how do you cope? And so you pass it on, don't you? You kind of say, look,
Mhm.
well, I do this, I do that, and so you help people that way as well. It's kind of like the last mental health seminar that we did at our dojo, and we got in contact with a local group who came down to get the monies from us. And
Mhm.
these guys, I think they're called Directions, and there was, even though it was, it's only a small amount, really, like £675. There was
Mhm.
what they said, the difference that would make, and how many people it would help. It's like, oh dear, even myself, I didn't realise how much. It's a
Mhm.
little amount of monies is going to
Yeah.
help so many people. It's amazing. And it's something that you started, and it's just growing and growing and growing. You imagine how many people that's actually helped over the
Yeah.
years. It's all credit to you, mate. It's an amazing thing, and it's a privilege to be part of as well.
I think I'm getting too much credit. I think not many people, again, because John is a bit like yourself, that he's not a medial person, but John does way much
Mm,
more work than I do with organizing the seminar. So that all the credit it goes to I just started it by my book and stuff, but
mm,
John is doing the most work promoting the seminars and with his CIC and working with the people with disabilities, him
yeah,
and Elaine doing an amazing job.
he does. But, yeah,
Yeah.
and again, like you said, he doesn't overly push what he does.
Mm,
John helps people almost on a daily basis.
yeah.
And doesn't seek no credit for it. Just does it just purely to help people. I know, and that's what more of a credit can you be? What more of a credit can you put to the man that he wants to help people, and for nothing else?
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, he's amazing guy, and I always I have to make an effort and fit the day, but unfortunately, always something comes up to go
Mm,
to your Free Amigos. He's on
yeah.
my list every year. Every time something comes up, I keep apologizing to John because I keep promising that will be on one, but
Mm,
it's always something pops out. Can you tell a little bit more about the project? Because it's kind of yourself, John, and Simon.
Mm,
It's like totally three different stories put
mm.
together, and it makes sense.
It's amazing. It's so not the Koryu Kyudokan, but the previous dojo we had. Uh, so Sensei John, being Sensei John, what a lot of people don't know about him is he still regularly trains with a
Hmm.
lot of people. You know, if you look at occasionally look at seminars, and it's like you'll see him in the background. You know, he doesn't. You know, he's not at the front saying, "Look at me, this is where I am."
Mm.
You know, he'll be on a lot of seminars, and he started coming training with us. Kind of was taken with what we was doing, and again, you know, Sensei John being in his 70s, and you watch him train, and you're like, "That's what I want." You know, it's in my I want to be like this in my 70s. So he was kind of he come regular training with us, and he, you know, joining the class, and he was loving what we was doing, loving the ethos of the way we train, the way we study, and going deeper and deeper. You know, it's kind of like he usually comes on Sundays, and Sunday classes for us is like a really advanced class. You know, I go really
Hmm.
deep into the study, and and then he said to me one day, when we just when we got the new dojo, and he said to me, "You need to meet Simon Oliver Sensei." Now I knew of again, like Sensei Corwell, Simon
Hmm.
Oliver had his own reputation, you know, and I think one of the first times that I'd seen about kata oyo, about the, you know, extracting the real fighting from it,
Hmm.
was through Simon Oliver Sensei's early videos. And he said, "Oh, you need to meet Simon. Simon will love what you're doing and you'll get on like an house on fire." So I invited him to the opening of the dojo when Sensei
Hmm.
Hanchi McCarthy officially opened it. And we kind of, all three of us got together then. So we need to do something together. We need to, you know, all three of us our mindset towards the martial arts is more of a pragmatic way, you
Hmm.
know, applying on different levels. So we kind of did this thing. I mean, it wasn't called the Three Amigos at the first. That was Elaine's idea, and we started doing these seminars together, and it just kind of worked, you know. Like even to this day, I mean, it's growing really well now. You know, we're a few years down the line now, and the you know the seminars are getting full, quite full, and people are signing on. You know, like I spoke to John the other day. When was
Hmm.
it? Oh, yesterday, and we confirmed the dates for next year, and we do three a year. So we do one at my dojo, one at
Hmm.
John's, and one at Simon's dojo. And it just kind of we'll have an idea, right? So let's say we do like the last one we got asked to do some stuff from the Heian Pinan katas,
Hmm.
and I said, well, yeah, well, you know, we'll do that. No, we never on the day. It's funny because we'll meet each other on the day. I don't see Simon Sensei a lot. Sensei John still comes up and trains with us every now and again, and we're doing. And even though it's not prearranged, it just works. It just we seem to have each other's lessons are within each other's lessons. If that makes sense, you
Hmm.
know. And it just we always seem to end up with a kind of a topic that threads through all three classes, and at the end you get kind of a moral to the story, if you will. You
Hmm.
know, and it really and it's simply because all three of us through different directions ultimately are trying to make our martial arts fit for purpose. So of
Hmm.
course there's going to be overlaps because we're human bodies. You know, you've only got four limbs and a head, so you know
Exactly.
you know there's going to be overlaps, and you're dealing with somebody with four arms and a head, unless you're from Wigan and you usually have three arms and four heads, you know. But so it's it really works, and it's over the years we've become very close actually, and I think the more years are going on, uh, it's getting better because
Mm.
we know each other better. If that makes sense. So we can we're starting to like finish each other's sentences and that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
and that
think
comes across in the dojo.
I think that's the beauty of karate in one way that you are able to make those friendships and to be honest all over the world, right?
Oh yeah,
If not
yeah.
karate, I wouldn't have friends here. I'm migrating from Poland. I that was something that I could touch base with pretty much every dojo, right? I walk in and
Yeah.
I feel like at home. You got that
Mm,
home all over the world. Um,
yeah.
can you tell us when the Free Amigos happening, where to find information, where to find your dojo if you want to be found?
See, you're learning. Yeah, so to find myself, the best way is just through social media.
Mhm,
You know, like I said, I'll hold my hands up. I say no to more seminars than I say yes to.
mhm,
What I'll do is I'll kind of see what you're about, and if I don't think what we do is going to suit you, if you just, without being egotistical, if I think that you only want me at your dojo because popularity of what we do or what I do, or then I say no, because I won't come for a payday.
mhm,
I said to everybody when I do a seminar, I'll say, look, they said, well, what fee do you want? And I don't do that.
mhm,
You advertise it, we'll come, and you generally, some of my guys come along. Some of my guys always come along anyway.
mhm,
And then whatever you take, we split, because whatever money, if I make 50 quid or 50 grand, it goes in dojo. It doesn't matter.
mhm,
So because I'm not money orientated, I say no to a lot. Uh, so if you want a seminar, you're interested in what we do, just contact me through social media. If you're local to where we are, I mean, when I say local, at the minute, I've got a guy travelling up from South Wales, takes him 5 hours, right, to come to the door. Listen to this, right? So he finishes work at lunchtime on a Thursday, and he travels 5 hours to the dojo, trains
mhm.
for 2 hours, and travels 5 hours home. And he
That's
does that on
commitment.
he does that on Sunday as well. And then I've got there's Ed, who's one of my long-time students, who comes down from Lancaster 3 times a week. That's an hour
Mm,
to an hour and a half each way.
wow.
He's driving home at like 9:30 on a Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and it's an hour and a half drive home.
Mm,
So when I say you're local to the door, it doesn't really matter that, because people travel from all over to train with us. Steve Knight. I started the instructors course a few years ago,
mhm,
and again, not for monetary, but to try and give what we do longevity. Really, I want
mm,
when my time's up, I don't want it to be like what happened to Sensei Well, I don't want it to end with him. Like, it's not
mhm,
ended with him because I'm doing what I'm doing, and so his other students are doing what they're doing as well. But I just want this methodology and ideology of how to train the Koryu Kyudokan way, in
mhm.
essence, to make sure it goes beyond me. If that makes sense. So I started the instructor's course, and again, like I do now with my students, I chose the people very, very well.
Mhm,
I really looked and I thought this person, that person, and with my senpai Alan, I discussed with it. I said, "What do you think of this person?" And he said,
mm,
"I don't know." And this person, yeah, definitely, yeah, he's followed us all the way, and so my 5 instructors that are coming through, they travel from Birmingham, travel from the Black Country, from
mm,
Lancaster, from Manchester, so they travel all over. But if you're interested in what we do and you want to come and train with us, then again, you need to contact me through social media. That's the easiest way.
mhm.
Uh, I've had people message me through YouTube. It's like, that's weird, that. Like, do you need that? you know? Uh, again, it's because I don't advertise.
Mm,
Because if a bit that, so our dojo is kind of we've ended up uh, full of very senior martial artists who's trained a long time in various styles,
mm,
and have either become disillusioned with what they're doing because they wanted something else from it rather than, say, sport or anything like that,
mhm,
or they've kind of reached the limit that they would with their sensei. No disrespect to the previous senseis, but not everybody's got that depth of knowledge,
mhm,
and they know there's more, so they seek more, which is all credit to them. And we've ended up with a dojo full of I think the average time training around about 20 years each,
mhm,
and it's so we've kind of ended up that way, that we're a dojo full of quite senior people that are seeking either answers or deeper knowledge.
mhm,
So if that kind of fits people, if they want to source me out, then, and they come along and we'll interview them and that. And if if they answer the right questions, and I think, what we do is what you want. I mean, I've had loads of people come to the dojo and they say what they want, and I said, what we do is not for you, mate. Maybe, and I'll send them somewhere else. I'll physically help them to find somewhere else to train if I know they're not for us. Mm-hmm. Again, because you've got to fit in with what we do, and it may sound super, super selfish, that, but 45 years in, I'm 54 in a couple of weeks, I know I'm not old, but do you know what I mean?
You've done your time. You've done your time.
Yeah. And the time I've got left, I need to cherry pick it. Make sure I get out to maximum what I can get out of what time I've got left. And I do that by having the right people around me as well.
I think that the worst type of gym or dojo is the one who tries to do everything.
Yeah.
If you've got the right, nice, precise, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Then people drawn to that, they know what to expect, they know what to get, and then you can, like you said, divert other people to different things, because everybody can find their own karate.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of, I've said this many times, if you want to, like, for example, if you want karate that's going to get you in the Olympics or win kumite championships, then our dojo's not for you. And I've had people come along and that's what they want, and I salute. We're not. You're not going to come here and get in the ring and have and get snotted and stuff. If you want that, if you want to, like, for example, I've sent people up to Russell Jarmis's, and if they want that kind of thing, and I salute. You're not too far from here. Go to Russ. If they want a dojo that's more like family orientated, so they've got children's classes and things like this, I'll send them up to a local Goju-Ryu dojo, So it's kind of, if you want what we do, then fine. But again, I've had senior practitioners from all different styles. They come in, they might have been training 20, 30 years, anything like that. And they come in and they realise, again, without being egotistical, they realise that what they think they knew is only scratching the surface, and it takes a certain, the ego gets melted. He just, Sensei Lowe used to say, people put themselves on a sugar pedestal, and this kind of martial arts training pisses on that pedestal and they crumble away. So he used to say, because he used to say to me, I don't know if you remember that in our dojo, there's a sign as you enter saying, leave your shoes and your ego here.
Yeah.
Because once you get in there, like I said, the dojo's full of quite senior people who know the shit. It's same as, again, there's no chance of having an ego in our dojo, because everything I bring in gets questioned. Everything. But I said to the guys, right, let's what do you think of this? Do this, do that, and they'll say, oh yeah. What about this and what about that? And the eventually, I mean, I'm always right. They just don't know it yet, But I encourage that in the dojo, actually. I encourage them to question, because I question everything we do, everything I've ever been taught. I question, because I want it to be. If it doesn't suit me and my need, it's gone. So the guys are the same. Everything we do, and rightly so. The very senior martial artists, someone's 20, 30 years in. They don't question me, but they question what we do. And if it fits, it stays. And if it doesn't fit, it goes. I like to, pre-pandemic, right? I would say my personal study was 2 years in front of what I teach. So I like to make sure that I can do it inside and out before I'll even attempt to teach it to anybody else. When the pandemic hit and the dojo didn't close, but we couldn't have classes. So what I did was, rather than have classes for that period of time, I just thought, right, we can't do it, so I'll work on me. So I just trained on everything I wanted to work on. And I would say now, realistically, my studies are about probably 3 to 4 years now in front of what I teach. which gives me fantastic because behind the scenes I'm working on stuff, and then I'll say to my guys, right, so punching this particular way is where I'm up to now, and they always side eye me because they know it's not. You know what I mean? That's just what I'm willing to teach at the minute. And then in like 12 months' time, 2 years' time, I'll say, right, I'll introduce something else, and they'll go, I knew there was something else. I knew there was something you weren't showing us, you know. And it's not because I'm trying to keep stuff. It's just I'm working on it. You know, like for example, you know, using the fascia with this non-stopping principle, this flow rate, I've been working on for about 4 years, and the guys are getting it now. You know, it's part of our classes, and they're starting to grasp it, and it's, you know, it's phenomenal. But again, it's not for everybody. So if you think it's for you, contact me. We'll have a chat. Come, you know, if you want to come down, come and watch, and then we'll decide whether you know, one, whether you're for us, and two, you know, whether what we do is for you.
I will put the link to your social medias in the description.
Yeah, superb. Yeah.
Sensei Steve, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
And I hope to join you next year for the Three Amigos.
Yeah, well, you've got yeah, you've got a choice of 3.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Well done for listening to all of it. You are a superhero. Thank you very much for your support. And if you could leave us that review on a podcast platform, that would be amazing. I appreciate your time, appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best until the next one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.